right, welcome everyone to episode 18 of the Green Room podcast, and I'm joined by Red Wolf today. Um, why don't you give us a small introduction into your artist persona and your background, and also being involved with the music scene as uh, what might be considered an outsider, not in a negative sense.
Yeah, sure. What's up, everybody? My name is Red Wolf. Originally from a place called Broward County, Florida. Grew up there for half of my life, and then I also grew up in Ireland for the later half of my life and to present. Um, I started, making music at around like dropping music at around like 13 years old to present, and grew like a pretty big following on YouTube and uh, garnered some good attention around the music and um, always loved to style bend, always loved to kind of break the boundaries and genre bend and, you know, try different instruments and try different production techniques and along with just singing and all different types of stuff along centered around like hip hop and stuff, and hip hop has always been like the main thing. And yeah, love rap, love everything about it, love battle rap, love everything about hip hop culture, and just kind of blending those styles in my music is fun as hell. Um, and Dropped like three mixtapes in my first self-produced debut album, Aquarium, recently, um, and that's been doing some crazy shit off of that. And yeah, I've been having fun. I've been having fun. It's been a great seeing the growth, like noticeable to me, kind of at least from when I started to now, and the progression and like what I'm able to do. And I'm here today just to make music and make sounds I love. That's
I
about it.
I had a look at your YouTube account. Seems you've been going for a good while, and you've got an immense amount of subscribers and views. Um, how long ago did you kind of start gaining traction on a level like that? Because at least in terms of the Irish scene, there's very few people out there that I know that have 100,000 plus subscribers and as many views as you do on a lot of your tracks.
I think I started gaining like viral momentum when I was around like 14. So I think that was like a year into me dropping. I dropped that like anti-bullying song and shit.
Yeah.
And it was solely based. Some might find it cringe or whatever the fuck, but like some people, that was based on like real experience. And I put on a common beat, wrote a song around it. It blew. Right time, right content, right place.
Sweet.
When I dropped like when the gay marriage referendum was happening in Ireland, like that kind of motivated me to do like a pro gay marriage song and shit.
Yeah.
So got a Drake beat, right time, right place, right message. It resonated. There you go. That was another one. And
Yeah.
then and there was obviously songs in between those, like that were, doing numbers as well. And like I was dropping mixtapes in and around that time. That was like mixtape era Wolfie. But like then the Trump one, you know, 2016 election, I had something to say. Ironically, that was the biggest one. And you want to know the salt in the wound, buddy? I wrote that. I wrote that Trump song in a math class I didn't pay attention to. Real shit.
Was this in Ireland or in America?
In Ireland.
Yeah.
I wrote that like in a math class I just didn't pay attention to. Imagine if I paid attention in that class. I wouldn't have wrote what I did.
True.
I probably would have just been like, I won't fucking do it. One of them where you like come up with an idea, you start like doing the bare bones of it, and you're just never mind. I'll just move on to something else. That would have been one of those had I paid attention. So goes to show.
I mean, realistically, most people who aren't paying attention in math class aren't writing songs that end up being popular as well in any shape or form. I was either doodling or just looking out the window. So fair juice for you for being so focused at such a young age, especially too, because you said you gained traction at 14. Like, there aren't a whole lot of guys in the scene that might even be considered veterans that were rapping at such a young age, never mind gaining any form of traction. So fair juice for getting that far at such a young age.
It is a lucky, man, and thank you. Like it is really lucky as well, like to have so many people sort of like resonate with what the fuck you have to say, because like most people at that age like were be seen not heard, right? But like I feel like they're because of the internet and because of the advancement of technology to be more DIY, like at my age, I was, like, mind you, it was a process to learn mixing and learn like how to make songs sound good from a production standpoint.
Of
But I
course.
did it myself. and I did it with what I had, you know, like
Yeah.
even to this day, I'm staring at a microphone stand, a microphone, headphones, 2 monitors, an interface, and a laptop, and then instruments, you
Yeah.
know, that's it.
You probably didn't have
That's
any
all
of
I
that
need.
when you
And then
started off.
software. Hmm?
You probably didn't have any of that stuff when you started off. It was the kind
Oh,
of the
no,
bare.
no, no. Like I had like literally headphones, a laptop, a microphone, and like a MIDI keyboard and a guitar at the time,
Yeah.
like 2 guitars at the time. I didn't have no monitors to mix on. I didn't have, you know, the interface. I didn't have like an extensive knowledge on what to do with like the software that I had, you know?
Yeah.
Like that was the thing. Like, you know, you can have all of this shit, but if you don't know how to use it correctly, then, you know, it's you shit in one hand, hope in the other. You know, you're
Oh
not going to
yeah.
get a great result
I,
unless you
I
know what the hell.
I was puzzled at the beginning when I started producing because obviously I didn't have a clue of things like YouTube tutorials and had no one to teach me or whatever. So the first like year or two even were just literally me like going in circles, just trying to figure out the most basic shit. And then once like I did a bit of it in college when I started off in GTI. I did sound production. At the time I wasn't too serious about the music side of things, but I was like, fuck it, I'll just do something. And then like within like a month of being there, like I progressed like, you know, twice as fast as I did in 2 years just from sitting there and not having a clue what the hell I was at. So I can relate to that on that side of things, like especially DAWs like
Mm,
Audacity or FL Studio, like they're hard to figure out. You know, they're not as kind of
absolutely, man.
straightforward as the
Like,
likes of say Paint or something like that. You know, which obviously is, you know, bare bones in terms of a program. But you know, that's got everything right in front of you. It's like, oh, this obviously is a pen. This is a fucking brush, and these are the colors. FL Studio or Logic or something like that. If you don't know what
yeah,
you're doing, like it's fucking hard. But once you figure it out, then it's piss easy. Like it's a very
exactly.
fine
It's
line of
muscle
just jumping
memory.
over that
It's
wall. Like,
it's literally muscle memory. And this is the thing, right? You know, the thing that we have now today in 2022 that we didn't have like probably around the time that you and I were starting out. Like I mean, the YouTube tutorials back then were not as sophisticated and as explanatory. They didn't have good explanations,
yeah,
or they didn't have like proper walkthroughs. It was around the time where they would drop YouTube tutorials. They had the music in the background, and they were like going back to their notepad to type like the fucking steps and shit.
yeah,
Remember them?
good
Like we had to
times.
like go on those, and like they were really obscure ones with like, and you were trying to find hyper specific problems about hyper specific shit about hyper specific plugins, and you were trying to like get all this like really niche information on these old blogs, and like they were super outdated to other versions of software, and
Yeah,
all of this figuring it out type of stuff. These are steps you run into, you know. It's like, yeah, you can be signed to a label and you can have all of the recording budget, you know what I mean? You can have all the recording budget that you need. They could apply, they can give you the studio, they can give you the studio time, they can give you the equipment that you can use. You don't have to pay a goddamn dime for it, at least for now. You have to pay it back in interest,
yeah,
but that's the catch. And they also get creative control over your shit depending on what contract you sign and with who.
of
So it's
course.
like, you know, there is benefit to um, being independent, but there's
DIY.
also like the trade-off is extremely hard work,
Yeah,
extremely hard work and consistency, and, you know, consistent quality. It's like people often argue, it's like, okay, what's better, quality over quantity? I personally believe quality over quantity personally,
yeah,
but I'm not naive not to know that it's like, yo, you need both and consistently.
yeah.
And for a lot of artists that can, you know, burn me out, you know, it can burn any human being out. It's like,
You're definitely
um
held back as well if you're a rapper who hasn't a clue about production stuff because you have to rely on so many other people who, in some cases, may not even just be nearly as passionate about what you're doing as you are, of course. And so you may not get the result you exactly want. And I definitely feel blessed that, like, if I want to make a song, I've got everything I have right in front of me. So I don't have to wait on anyone. Whereas some guys could be waiting weeks or months because they might have a specific producer they want to work with, but also because they haven't a clue about any of this stuff. I would recommend, like, I understand it's not for everyone, but you know, if you're curious about it and you're an artist, like, definitely try to get into that stuff, because then you just can you can literally create an entire project by yourself without needing anyone, which is fucking
exactly.
a blessing in some cases.
Exactly. And this is the thing, like, you know, this is what I say with any skill, like, expect to be shit. When I, like, you know, I was a great rapper when I was like writing, when I was 14, I was great at fucking writing at that point, and I
Yeah,
could like put some really dope rhymes together. But like, you know, I was really shit at freestyling, right? And
yeah,
with freestyling, it's like you expect to be shit. That was the advice I was given by a man named Andre, Lyricology 101. Talk to him to this day. He's a great guy. Um, and he's a phenomenal freestyle. with any skill, it's like expect to be shit at first.
Yeah.
If you're going into production, expect to be doing those hours and hours of YouTube tutorials with drony people with drony voices.
Mm.
And trying to find which is good for you. That's one of the things with producing, right? Fundamentally, it's like there is no right way to do things.
Yeah.
Like there's, you can EQ something, you can compress something a million different ways. What's the right way to do it? I mean, there's a right way to do it to achieve a certain sound, a certain preference, but that's what you got to learn, what those preferences are called. You got to learn the terminology. You got to, really just, be deep dive and be obsessed with it. Because if you're not obsessed with it and you don't like it, then there's going to be so much to learn that you don't want to, and then you're going to get discouraged because of how big brain or complicated or whatever it is. But like, it's made a lot easier than it was back then.
Yeah.
And that's for sure. And I do encourage anybody to try, like, at least.
Definitely. It's funny seeing kind of like there's a couple of producers on my label, and for the most part we don't ever see each other when we're making beats. We're all together in the studio, but we're not like necessarily watching each other make beats, and we see just how everyone approaches everything so much differently. Like, and in cases where I'm doing stuff and they're like, what the fuck are you doing that for? Like, that's gonna sound awful. I'm like, just give me a few minutes and watch. Like, and then I do my thing and they're like, oh, what the fuck? Like, I thought that was gonna sound completely different because you put these two plugins there. Like, I wouldn't use those plugins at all, like, because I don't fucking like them. I'm like, oh yeah, fair enough. And then like they see how like I'm programming drums as opposed to the way they program their drums. It's completely opposite. And in some cases for me, it could be like the way I'm doing it is unnecessarily complicated or maybe takes longer, but it's just the fact that it's muscle memory, as you said. Like, it's just so imprinted in my brain. You could show me a fucking command on my keyboard that could do that in 2 seconds, but I'm so fucking used to just doing it this particular way.
Yeah, it's a certain way every time, even if
still
it's a
works
more complicated way. Yeah. I get that totally. Like, there'll be I work with a band. We're working on an EP right now. I'm not going to say much on it, but like hopping on Discord and like backseat producing. I don't know if you've ever done that.
Yeah.
That's a really fun thing to do. And that's how I've been learning from like a lot of producers that I've been working with and different techniques. Like I'm like this close. I'm on FL right now. I'm like this close to switching to Ableton just because of the amazing shit that we've been able to pull off.
Yeah.
Like just on Discord calls alone. And like it's amazing seeing other people do different things or the same things different ways, right? Yeah. Like, side chaining or whatever technique that you're trying to pull off, like, oh wow, that's a really cool, and it might bring up something, a quality or characteristic within the sound that you might not have gotten before with the other way you were doing it.
Yeah.
So it's like it's very subtle shit that the average listener wouldn't be able to like articulate, let alone appreciate. But like, it'll make the subtle difference to how like awesome your track sounds depending on what you're doing. So it's like, this is why I love it. It's like there's so many different things you can learn, even if you could, or 20 plus years in this shit, experience, you could work with the best. There's always something you can learn. And there's also always something you can relearn as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Before I was going to get into the battle rap side of things, I was going to say my initial thought when I saw, because I didn't realize you'd been living in Ireland for a couple of years, I was like, this American guy is jumping into the Irish battle scene. Like, is he going to be ready for, sort of vibe and kind of, general way of things in the scene? Like, how is it going to work for him? Because just, especially when I saw you battling Raptor, I was like, this is going to be funny. I honestly wasn't expecting you to be like the winner, essentially, in my eyes, of how fucking well you did. Like, and obviously I've given you endless praise, so that was no shade on you, but naturally I was like, I didn't realize you'd been here for so long. So I was like, is this guy just jumping in here? Is he going to be fucking ready for this shit? And I was blown away. And to this day now, like, you're definitely up in my, like, I don't follow battle rap a whole lot, but like, you'd be one of the guys that I like fucking rate really, really highly. And I genuinely was blown away when I first heard it. Like, I was like, fuck, man, like, this guy really did a number here. Like, no offense to Raptor, like, yeah, I'm a good friend of his, like, so I'm not putting any shade on him, but genuinely, man, I was really, really blown away. Did you find it, like, initially in any way nerve-wracking? Because naturally there's that typical, Irish versus American kind of banter that we normally dish out. Same with the English as well. It'd be the same sort of shit. Like, it's not meant in a bad way, but naturally it's probably very prevalent in the scene in that sense, like.
I don't think, because here's the thing. Maybe my very first battle, I felt that. Like, I felt that that was gonna be a thing.
Yeah.
Like when I faced Arcane Soaks in the fucking horse stable. Thanks, Nugget. But like, um, and that's another one too. Like I was expecting Nugget to come at me the same way. I feel like the Irish versus American thing could get very predictable very quick, very
Yeah, I
quickly.
felt like they might have
You
used
know?
it once and then be like, this is not working. So like just bringing up the fact that he's American in, a variety or like in the next couple of battles, whichever ones you had would just be pointless.
And it's the same way the other way around. And if I was just to come with 3 rounds of like Irish stereotypes, then like
Potato
I
eating,
would
drinking,
lose.
alcoholic bastards. Like, yeah, no,
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
and with Thor in particular, man, that was a match that was it's my favorite for so
yeah,
many different reasons. I mean, like we came under fucking crazy scrutiny because my idea of like the 10-minute 1 rounder kind of thing, right?
yeah,
We were gonna do like 1 round, 10 minutes, and like that to the UK battle rap and like Irish battle rap scene. That was pretty much unheard of. Rare cases of that have happened, and most of them went unsuccessfully. But I figured
yeah,
in like an organized format, it could work, and it did. And that's the thing, right? Like we both, you got to do it with lyricists that can really, put their pen to the test like that. That can really give you a variety in terms of performance, in terms of like what they're saying, how they're saying it, humor, bars, expression, points, angles, like, make it an entire thematic, non-stop, like masterpiece, essentially, as much as you
yeah,
can, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to break that boundary. And Raptor was the perfect person to do it with because he's just a crazy bastard and he raps like that,
yeah.
you know? He's
One of the best
arguably
too,
one of the best in the fucking country. So like, and that's doing a match like that with him was absolutely crazy. I was nervous about more so me gassing out the crowd
Yeah.
versus with the time versus like what Raptor was gonna say, and he said some shit and we
Oh,
both felt
naturally, yeah.
it. He said some shit, I said some shit, we both felt it in the room, when the explosive reactions were happening in that battle. And it was just a great one to happen, man. And yeah, shout out to Prem for taking a chance on that one, and shout out just to PBI in general, like, and having an Irish division finally for Premier is really good to say, and to be on the first card with a match like that, that's really dope. So I'm happy out with that shit, and I do thank you for your kind words as well.
Yeah, again, as I said, I was blown away. I was kind of expecting it to be a bit of a slaughter because I hadn't seen you battle before. So I really wasn't sure what to expect, but you blew me away, and I'm not embarrassed in any way or egotistical enough to not to say that. Like, so fair play. And yourself, as I said, I don't really tune into the battle rap scene a whole lot. I'm more focused on the music scene. But yourself and Raptor would be my two favorite battlers. To see you both go against each other was just like, yeah, I'm definitely going to tune into that.
Hell yeah, man. I appreciate that. And like, look, there's the Irish battle rap scene now with PBI and like the Academy coming up as well. Like that's going to be, it's going to be Irish battlers in a tournament setting, a proper tournament setting. That's going to breed a lot of new talent, and we're going to see a lot of new faces and existing faces that have yet to develop. Obviously, with the fall of Riff and everything, there was
Yeah.
a great period where like the Irish people couldn't build up their stock; they had to fly over. Not that everyone could do that because of work or because of life or because of whatever, but
Yeah.
like now we got a hub with the biggest UK battle rap platform ever to basically just kind of give us a spot and develop our talent
Yeah.
pool a lot more. And everyone's hungry. The names, I'm not going to say no names, but like I said, it's going to be crazy this year for the whole roster. And I'm just excited to see the development. And
You're
like,
coming
remember
from
the
all-
winner. The winner of that shit gets the #1 contender for title match as well for
Yeah.
Ireland. So that's going to be, a big scrap for that this year, along with draft in the UK and everything with the big leagues.
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
but yeah.
So what brought you to Ireland initially?
So my folks were going to start a production company up here,
Yeah.
and my grandmother also was born here. She was born like in Burr, like
Yeah.
originally, and she grew up in the Midlands, but she left for America in like the 1960s when she met my grandfather, and they had my dad, and my mom lived in like Jersey and shit, and then moved down to like Jersey Cubans. Let me tell
Yeah.
you something. Like, let me tell you something about Jersey Cubans. Okay, there's two places they are: New Jersey or Florida. Right? You guess where I was born? Good old fucking Florida man up in the presence. If you see a headline, I'd like to apologize in advance. But it's it yeah no but they bred the thing that is me, and I was born to conquer the world and do rapping and stuff. I'm kidding, but like now growing up in Florida was like crazy, like different obviously to here.
Of
You know,
course, yeah.
one the fucking weather, two, you know, the food, would you believe? Like, let me tell you something, I was a little bit bigger when I was a kid, right? I came over here, I lost all of that weight because of just the natural food that y'all have here, like
Yeah,
the non-processed beef, like the actual healthy, you know, ingredients into the things that you consume. That's a big change.
I've been to Florida, and I won't say who, but members of my family gained nearly a stone each that week, just from a week. And like, granted, yeah, okay, we weren't exactly, you know, fucking going out of our way to eat fucking lettuce and, you know, celery there, but we weren't going to McDonald's either. We were going to, you know, fancy-ish restaurants, and like, yeah, fuck, it was like lovely food, but yeah, not very good for you. We don't realize how lucky we have it in Ireland. Like, I mean, is one of like not many countries even in the world that has like genuinely good food. Like, so
Yeah,
we're lucky
I
like
mean,
that.
oh yeah, for sure. Like, you know, your primary sector is, you know, practically unbeaten. I would say that, you know, say what you want about Ireland and economically speaking, but like,
Yeah.
you know, the primary sector is goated. Like, it's as simple as that. Um, well, you know, shout out to farmers, but no, for real,
Oh, of course,
like
no, yeah, they don't get enough credit, really. They get a lot of slack, in fairness.
that's true. Um, to be fair, like they do have a problem. They do own like a lot of unnecessary grass. You ever be on a train, you're just
Of course,
going by and you're just like, why is that big patch of grass there? That could be a homeless shelter. That could be a fucking housing estate. And it's
sure,
just
they
like,
could
what are
sell it
you?
and get a fortune as well. That's the thing, you know. If I mean, some of these fields, like, they're probably worth quarter of a million, half a million, if not more. You know, it's like, fuck, man. You know, sell that and
Exactly.
retire. Like, I'm sure you've got like 7 or 8 other fields you can leave bare if you want. Like,
Exactly. And like I understand that like Ireland, like it basically thrives on its primary sector. It's one of its main sources of income. It's like what it's
yeah,
known for, right? But it's like, you know, if you were to uh, metropolize, I don't even know if that's a word, but like to make a more of a metropolitan part in like a lot of these very small, broken down towns. You know, one, you give people more places to like live. You know, they wouldn't be as coagulated up in Dublin. You know, with like all with the housing crisis and all that shit.
yeah.
You know, it would ease it a little bit. And like that's another thing. Like Irish politics is something. I mean, I live here, so it's like obviously something I'm a little passionate about. But I'm just passionate about politics in general.
Yeah.
That's like another thing. Um, like I don't know where this went,
If you even
but
if you look at like, say, small country towns, like that probably would have been fairly bustling, at least when I was a kid. Like, to this
mhm.
day, it's been fucking 14 years since the recession, or at least the, you know, the main big one in our lifetime at least. And like,
Yeah.
still, like, half these towns are completely closed down or dilapidated. Like, they have just the bare minimum. And
Bro, I lived in a Tullamore, like
yeah,
at one point. That was that like when I, you know, a bulk of my time here was spent in Tullamore. I don't live there anymore, but like that was, you know, that was a place I used to live, and it was, you know, it's like bullseye in the middle of the country. That's where it is,
mhm,
and um, it just you just see the result of the lack of like funding put into a place. You
yeah,
just see you see it reflected in like the attitude of the people, like including myself. This does not exclude me because I was there, right?
yeah,
Like for a long period of time. And you see like just how everyone's just so unmotivated and
yeah,
everyone's just not uppity, and you know that, you know, everything's so fucking doom and gloom. And you know it's sad. It's because it's, you know, you are molded by what you are surrounded by, and what you're
yeah.
surrounded by is an environment of just completely unmotivating shit, you know. And that's no slight to the people. You know, the people are great, you know. You
It's
know
not their fault, you
people are what make, you know, a small town like that, you know, having a tight-knit community that cares about each other. But like when the resources that you are allocated by the government are very fucking minimal, and you know leave you kind of like what the hell, then that's what it does. You know, I lived in, you know, rundown fucking towns and shit. I currently live in a city, and I'm thankful to live in a city. It's a good city, and I think you could see the difference and you can smell the difference even, right? But like, it kind of makes you grateful for what you have when you move up.
Yeah.
It does. When you start moving up a little bit, and you start, getting shit that you didn't have before, you start realizing, you know, that you didn't realize how bad you had it because you were so used to it. But then also you become a lot more grateful for what you do have. You know, it's just, yeah, it's a thing.
And
But
it's not, it's not all that hard to achieve too, in some cases. And I commend anyone that kind of might have been stuck in those mindsets before and has, made the effort to really get out of it and get out there and get a piece of the pie. Once they've tried, there's nothing worse than trying and failing. But of course, what you have to keep doing is keep trying, especially if you're doing something in any way creative, whether it's rapping or making movies and stuff like that. Don't realize how long it takes to really kind of get something going that's legit and like worth kind of sharing with the masses and stuff like that, especially in cases like where people might see you 10 years into what you're doing and they're like, oh, this is piss to you, like, you're just able to fucking pick up and play. Like, it's like, yeah, well, like, half those years I was spent fingering my ass and not knowing what the fuck I was at, and then another 3 years were fucking spent making shit music, like, so obviously now that some people didn't take as long as I did, and it didn't take me fucking 8 years to make a decent song, but I'm exaggerating a bit, but you know what I mean, like, it's like it appears a lot more easy to the outsider who has no experience with that stuff, and it can be detrimental to people because I have guys coming into me who are kind of newbies and they kind of try to jump into the fucking ocean straight away, and it's like, you shouldn't really release your first song, like, I made that mistake of just making like 40 songs and then releasing all of them on like an album, and then having gone back then like a year later and being realizing like 2 of those are like worth keeping based on my current mixing skills, my current production skills, and my current writing skills and delivery skills and everything.
What is the thing? This is what I did, right? Like when I dropped all of what I put out, like even if it was like totally shit, I would make it like at the time the best version of what I could do it, right? And I'd keep it up. They're still up. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and the purpose of why they're still up is to show to myself, mainly to myself, but also like to whoever like cares enough to like go through that long history of music, the progression, Yeah. Like, again, I started very young, right? I'm 22 now. Like, I'm a grown ass man. If I, like you go back to songs from when I was 14 versus when I was 22, you can see a very clear progression. Not only did my balls drop, but my music got better, right? It's like, there you go.
I'd say it's not as cringy.
I feel like as cringy, as cringy as like, our old songs can be, and as like little as we can do with them, depending, some of my old songs still pop, like songs I don't necessarily like listening to anymore, but like, they still pop, they still resonate with people. You know what I mean? Like, even if you made it age, it's like, oh, so it's like we as artists will always be our own worst self-critics. Like, it is what it is. Right. But it's like, there is room to appreciate that progression when you listen back to an old track that you find was shit. But it was like, even when you go back to an old track and you're like, oh, damn, this actually kind of fire for the flow. And like, even though the lyrics could be a lot better, it's like, oh, man, like, you can find appreciation in that progression and how you learn things. And you're like, oh, I would have done this here now. And you always self-criticize. But I do it now in a positive way, so I don't get down on it. Right. So, just be an open book with that kind of shit. Like, Logic has his songs from when he was a kid, still fucking out into the public, and all of these like underground rappers and stuff will still have all of their old SoundCloud drops from when like they were like a squeaker. You get what I mean? And it's for that same reason. It's to show where you came from, and I love that shit. I love listening back to old, like really old dirt demos of like artists that are really fucking good now. Yeah, because you see where they came from, you see where they're at. I love it.
I kept some stuff like that. Obviously, if I was to release now, I wouldn't rate it, but having gone back and listening to it, it's like, oh, that's actually good, that's pretty catchy, oh, that beat's pretty sick, or that the mixing, that's pretty good. There was just definitely some there where it was like, nah, like outright I just shouldn't have released that. And I've noticed, like, since maybe my last 3 or 4 projects, like I'd say my last 3 projects I released as a rapper that I'd also produce mostly myself, I probably made like 90 tracks in total, and then maybe about 15 to 20 of those got released on the projects. I think it was a 7-track EP, a 5-track EP, and then a 10-track album. So that's 22, and then maybe one got released as a single, and then another two I put on my last production album that I also got a lot of different rappers on. Just released that there a couple of weeks ago.
Would you like put your all into like every single one, or would these
Oh
be
yeah, of
ones that
course. Like at the time, yeah, I would like. I'd be like, yeah, like this is pretty good, and then I'd test it out, and then I just leave them there, and then eventually I'd go and I'd listen to them as I'm going along, and then slowly but surely I'd like knock ones off the list, and sometimes some ones would get re-added to the the final track list. But for the most part, I'd usually not like. I think with the last two, because the first one was the first time I did that, where it was a case that I made loads of tracks and then picked through them. The next two, I was a lot more confident and kind of knew straight away. Okay, I'd write a song like, okay, this song is going to be good. Like I fucking really feeling this. Whereas before, I might just write a song and be like, fuck it, I'll try it out. So I was a lot less wasteful the last two projects in terms of like recording stuff and then setting it aside and be like, that's never been released, that's shit. And I kind of knew straight away while I was recording a song, I was like, yeah, I'd be very surprised in a month's time if I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to work.
I totally get that. Like honestly, when it comes to like Aquarium, the entire lead up to that album was pretty much that situation, because it was like, I was making, that was a concept that I had created in my head when I was like 14, like during mixtape era Wolfie and shit, and what like during the times of Searching for the Sounds, Lonely Cold Winters, and Wavy Boy, right? To those listening who might know those projects, right?
Yeah.
The build up to Aquarium was basically that. Like it was a 3-year period where I was like making music like on the down low, and just also kind of taking a break, just kind of like not giving a fuck about like being in the, or worrying about trying to be in the limelight or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Like relative to what my limelight was at the time, right? And just like living life a little bit. But then it was also like, me scrounging to try and get this concept together during like a really dark period, So it was like you'd be making music and you'd be making shit that's good, but then you're just like, nah, this ain't ready. Nah, this ain't ready. I would stack like all of these songs. The songs that didn't get released are greater than the songs that got released.
Yeah.
Like in terms of the number of them. Like, and it was originally a much bigger album, but it was like when you care about something and you're a super fucking perfectionist about everything, then you're gonna be getting every nook and cranny and getting every possible thing, and you think you're ready to release the whole damn thing, and you're like, nope, one tiny mixing mistake, one tiny little thing that I want to re-record. You always nitpick.
In some sense, it could be smarter as well. I feel like if you haven't quite blown up yet, if you make a song that's fucking class, to nearly leave that aside and then release not necessarily mediocre stuff, but stuff that's like good, because I feel like you could release a really good song when you're like unknown, and then it just fall through the cracks and never get kind of mentioned again. Because like I've had that issue before where like I'd whip out songs where it's like, oh yeah, like this is actually my favorite song, I released this 4 years ago. I was like, oh, I've never even fucking heard that one. I'm like, yeah, I was like, I probably should have fucking held off. And as well,
this is why I
made a better version of it too, as well, if I'd waited 4 or 5 years. But of course, you're not thinking that far ahead usually, at least at that stage, like.
Yeah, it's like look, like this is why a lot of rappers will do the Joyner thing, where they'll like drop a bunch of remixes and shit on poppin' songs, just to kind of like get a little bit of eyes on them, just to kind of like get a little trending and stuff. And in like the right appropriate time, in the hype of like people looking at you through those remixes, then they will drop their original shit. You know, like it's like building that momentum and then like dropping the thing at the right time. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing I might do it. Might drop a few remixes, few freestyles, a few 3-4 minute little things where it's just rapping, or make like a little remix to a song, get a feature on it. Like, it's again, all of the times in which I've been like successful in terms of, getting eyes on me, it's always been the right content, the right time.
Yeah.
Always. Like,
that's not easy.
And it's not, well, yeah. And this is the thing, I didn't spend a fucking dime on ad revenue or like AdSense, like Google ads, as well. Like this was all like organic growth as well, and that's the thing, like you can get millions and millions of people to look at you if you do the right content at the right time and you deliver it in the right way. Right? It's gotta, like, here's the thing, like I'm me, I never really cater, right? So part of this honestly has just been luck. Like I didn't know this going into making those songs.
Yeah.
But I realized what it was that blew them up in retrospect.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at it now being like, oh, right content, right time, right? When it was really me just like saying shit and it was resonating with people, Like I was saying, like you say what you feel. and people will resonate with it. And depending on how you deliver that, a lot of people might resonate with it. And it might sound like some weird pseudoscientific shit. It isn't. Like, believe me, it's just um, perception is a motherfucker.
Yeah.
It really is. And um, if you just say the right thing the right time, people will be like, "Yep." They'll agree with it. They'll push it. They'll promote it. They'll love you, right? They'll love what you say. They will like, you know what I mean? So like,
Hmm.
I guess on a lot of things I was speaking on in the music that did get like a huge amount of attention.
It's home with
People
people.
were just, hmm?
It hit home with people.
Yeah, it did, and I'm grateful for that. Like something that I wrote, something that I just felt that writing a song clicked with people. I'd be getting to this day DMs like, "Holy shit, bro! I'm still listening to your music. Your music really helped me in a hard time," and you know, all of these like different variants of these messages from a lot of different people around the world, bro. Like, it's crazy. I still get people running into the streets giving me fist bumps and shit like, "Oh dude, love your rapping, your rapping's crazy, man." And then of course I remember you mentioning on the Raptor podcast, this made me die laughing because this is so true. The thing you were mentioning about um how people will be like very demeaning towards it. They'll be like, "Oh, how's the little music thing? You still at the
Yeah.
music, you still at the rapping." And they won't ask you because they actually want to know. They'll ask you because they want to fucking take the piss, right?
Yeah. If
Like, I
you
get
actually
that
tell them
too.
that it's going well, the conversation just dies out very quickly. It's like, oh,
Ex-
it's not
hmm
it's not miserable shit. It's like, no, it's not. It's actually pretty good. It's like, oh, well, goodbye then. It's like, yeah, fuck off.
Yeah, we know what you're at, and they'll ask you in groups too because they were talking about you before. They'd be like, "Oh, look, 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 there's him, right?" And they come up to you like, "Oh man, how you doing? How's everything?" And everyone's fucking chuckling, and you give them like an actual serious, like not piss take answer, and then they're just like, anyway, and it's like,
Or I'll literally
what?
point out exactly what's going on. I'm like, I know exactly what's going on here. Like, you're all a bunch of grown men. You're all sniggering in the corner at me. Like, it's like, well, hey, fair play to you. Like,
Exactly.
they'll get
You know,
embarrassed then. Like, like,
exactly. And if you play along with it, if you just lean into it and just don't give a shit and just freak them the fuck out, it works in your favor then. So you're the one getting the entertainment from it and they're not. And that's how you got to handle these situations. Like people often want to be very like mysterious niche artists who don't show their face, and respect to them, like life is life, people are people. But like if you're ever doing it for the reason because you're afraid of what people might say about you, people might say about you in public, people might approach you certain ways and you might not want to deal with those interactions. Like, lean into it. Like, that's the thing. Like, I used to, like when I was like really blowing up, I got like a bunch of piss take people just kind of coming up to me and like
yeah,
being rude, and DMs and death threats even, bro, like online and shit. Like, no, like for legit. Like,
yeah,
I'm not kidding. You know, I dissed the orange Cheeto president. People were mad.
fucking hell.
Like, like that mad that they were willing to send death threats to like a 16, 17-year-old kid. You know, it was like, whatever, you deal with it. Like, you just show no emotion to it. You expect it. It's like, um, and that's not to minimize it. Some people have a harder time dealing with that kind of thing,
Yeah,
but leaning into it and sort of just like playing into it, like, oh, whatever, like, how can I fuck with this person? Kind of like, make it a little game in your head rather than just words that affect you,
of course.
because if people are taking their time out of their day, to negatively comment on you, right? Now, criticism is one thing if you fuck up, right? Fair criticism is one thing. I can take a fair criticism. I encourage that. I give more than give it to those to help them, right? But um, if someone's taking time out of the day to like really try and fuck with you, just for a laugh, they might think, oh, it's a laugh.
So I was going to ask you, besides the band stuff, obviously, I'm assuming you're working on some new tracks or music videos or something music related. If you want to plug that or have a small chat about it.
Yeah, no, I'm just like in a very, drafty creation stage right now. Like at Post Aquarium, I have like a lot of songs aside, just in general that I
Yeah.
want to put out. It's just a matter of where and when. I'm definitely thinking of getting like a good series of EPs released for different things. Um, I've been using this time to network. I've been using this time to just kind of see what's next. And I've got like a good idea of just sort of like dropping a good series of EPs. Um, and yeah, I think that's all I'll say on that one. But
Fair.
I'm definitely in music mode right now. I've also got some features to do with some homegrown talent here and some international, back home where I'm from, and of course in the UK. I've got something crazy good locked in for with a UK artist right now. That's gonna
Sweet.
be like very good to have. Um, don't want to jinx it, but let's just put it this way: you know him,
Yeah. Cool.
like people will know him, and it's gonna be great. But other than that, bro, like I've just been like preparing for uh league for Premier. They got me my first matchup. I'm not gonna drop that just yet, but it's it's a dirty one. It's a dirty one, man. It's great. It's it's gonna be a very personal match. Not necessarily disrespectful personal match, but it's
You have
like
history with
I'm
this guy.
close, I'm close with the person.
Oh, cool.
Like, so you put friends together, they fight. It's always like good to see, you know?
Yeah, so you've got dirt, like.
It's not even just about dirt.
Yeah.
Like that's what that we're not even going on that type of tip. It's just
Mm,
gonna be roasting the fucking shit out of each other better
yeah.
than anyone ever could.
Fair.
Um, it's gonna be a fun one, bro. It's gonna be a fun battle. Um, but yeah, like what I was saying before about just kind of like when people are fucking with you, just to cap that off, like when people are fucking with you, lean into it, and it might be a lot to deal with, but once you learn to sort of just get a handle on it, and the less you give a shit, the better, and I
Yeah.
learned that the hard way, and just through trial and error of like doing shit and just dealing with undesirable people, along with like the many, you know, really dope fans and really dope supporters over the years.
Yeah. It's gonna come no matter you could be the fucking best rapper, producer, singer in the world. Even the ones to this day who are famous and fucking, still doing their thing get fucking numerous hate messages every day. So no matter what, you're always going to get it. Just compare it to how many positive comments you get and support, genuine support, and hopefully, at least in most people's cases, the love outnumbers the hate.
Exactly. I mean, Ireland's a great place for a lot of reasons, but it's very tight knit in terms of like what's socially acceptable to do, right? See,
Of
like if
course.
you're not a hurler, or if you're not like a farmer, or like if you're not like a Gaelic footballer, like, or just to play football in general, if you're not a sporty dude, socially you're just like, oh, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if you do abstract art, or if you're a poet, or if you do music, you know what I'm saying? Like if you're in the arts, it's often like a very taboo thing. They'll look at it like, oh, okay, so what's your real job? I'm like, huh? This? What do you mean? Like, um, and it's often looked at with stigma. And people coming up will like notice that, and notice that stigma that people in the country have, and because of that, will get discouraged from actually pursuing it. And it could be phenomenally good,
Oh
and that's
yeah.
a shame. You know, like people don't want to put their best foot forward because they're like afraid of being discouraged. And it's like, that's debilitating the talent. It's like you got to just support your local talent. There's a lot of good local talent, a lot,
Yeah, people don't
especially in this
realize
country.
how good at least even the hip hop scene actually is in this fucking country. Like I always say, like some of the best rappers in this country are some of the best in the world, not just for Ireland, not just for Europe. And you know, more often than not, I still get people all the time that are blown away when I show them tracks, from a variety of different rappers from around the country, like, and it's like, yeah, that guy gets like fucking 200 views on like his best tracks on YouTube. It's like, he's better than most of the stuff that's on your fucking Spotify playlist. Like, it's like
Exactly. Rap Thor, Johnny
break down for
Darko,
five
fucking
minutes
Demlot.
and actually listen to this Irish shit, and like you'll fucking be blown away. The accents for most people, because Irish people have that kind of stigma towards themselves, and they
Mhm.
can't, like, if they hear a fella with a Dublin accent or a Cork accent talking about something serious, they're like, oh, fuck off, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, but surely you can relate to that guy more than you can relate to this American fucking multi millionaire talking about how hard his life is. Not to minimize their problems too, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of like, it's strange like that. I think people have this
Yeah,
like
it's like it's
self-loathing
immediately
attitude.
It's the same with TV though. Like, you know what I mean? Like I can name on my hand the amount of like famous Irish TV shows that like really made a mark in Ireland. I mean, Mrs. Brown's Boys, Father Ted, you know what I mean? Like everyone knows those. But
Yeah.
like everything beyond that is like British or American TV. And it's like, bro, like where's the like or the Tommy Tiernan show, excuse me, or like Graham Norton, but like, you know what I mean?
There's still fuck all
Probably
of it, like
hmm?
there's still fuck all there. It's primarily, American and English. And
Exactly.
I feel like people like obviously it might sound ironic coming from a hip hop guy, but like I feel like people are almost desperate to be American or be English, or just anywhere but Irish. Like you don't have to wear
Oh,
a
dude,
paddy cap and
amount of
fucking
Irish rappers like that I know in the scene that I personally connect with that will like literally strangle Irish people who like use UK accents and shit.
oh yeah, of
You know what I
course.
mean?
Me too. I
Yeah, I
do
mean,
those too. Like
exactly. Like, it's like you ain't gotta change, be yourself. And like, look, every accent has a twang to where if you bend words enough, you can do it in a way that nobody else does. That's
yeah,
the thing. That's another thing I don't get is that Irish people can rhyme things in a way I can't. You
yeah,
know.
and vice versa.
I can't rhyme. I cannot rhyme the word like line with groin. Okay, you
Yeah,
can loin, groin. Like you can do it. Dubliners can do that. I can't do that. So take advantage of that and bend words in like really cool ways. I mean, you were talking about before where it was like the the jokey acts, sort of like like the Rubber Bandits or like
yeah,
and shout out to the Rubber Bandits, they're entertaining, but like what I mean, like or like Versatile or like people like that versus people like Raptor who can rap versus people like Demlot who can rap. You know what I mean? Versus like Wax White and all of these like really dope Irish acts that can put together not only great verses with great pen but just phenomenal music. Like Wax White's EP was crazy. Like Demlot's, new singles have been like absolutely phenomenal. Raptors, being polite with like dialect of Xeno, obviously that's really dope. So it's like,
I feel like
there's a
it's
lot of
the underground scene in our country, like, because obviously it's the same everywhere else. Like the mainstream doesn't compare to the underground scene in England or America, but the underground scene is at a much bigger level there, where they're probably not as pissy when they see, like, I doubt West Side Gun is looking at the charts in America and being pissed off that Cardi B or Little Pump is doing better than him, because he's still fucking making a good living and he's getting fucking huge support. And the same in the UK. So, but here I feel like maybe, yeah, there's a little bit more bitterness kind of directed toward people who are up there in the mainstream, because you know we're at a level, we're not quite at a level where we can kind of we're not at a level where we're all satisfied, I guess. As like I think that
the
the
problem
underground
is
kind
money.
of, sorry.
The problem is the problem. Sorry to interrupt you. Like the problem is money.
Yeah,
Like that's where I think in our scene, like that is accessible to us. Like the underground scene here is like money is the problem. Funding events, and not only that, getting venues to like put on hip hop events. I mean, like the amount of fucking events that like um or that will turn away hip hop acts or hip hop cards because it's hip hop, right? Like even though like Jesus Christ, like like everyone there is sound. There's not a problem. It's
yeah.
like
There's
you
never
know,
problems usually.
no, and if there is, then they're dealt with accordingly. You know what I mean? It's not reflective on like the hip hop scene.
I must have
And
contacted 60 venues there recently for just all around the country, because we kind of been doing the same places back and forth with Bad Arts and stuff. And I'd say maybe four responded and two of them were interested. And obviously, there's a range of factors there, but I would predominantly say it was just kind of the hip hop stigma, um, in general, kind of, because
but
even
it's
in
also
like,
artists being paid, bro. It's also like you just take hip hop out of it. Just musicians in this country, the taboo sort of like stigma of them like asking for money to gig.
yeah,
It's like we want to do this for a living. It's
yeah,
like, if you want us to, perform on your card, it's like, yeah, like how many tickets can you sell? That's fair enough, right?
yeah,
That should obviously play a factor in your fee. But like to do it for absolutely fuck all, you know what I mean? Like at this point in the game, right? It's like, yeah, of course, when you're first starting out, do
yeah,
your free gigs. You have to, you know what I mean? Who the fuck are you, right? But like if you're good at what you do and you can provide entertainment and you've proven to provide entertainment to those in attendance to the thing you're performing at, yeah, 100, 150 quid ain't, shouldn't be a lot to ask for, like there are acoustic artists in every town that gig in all the pubs, and them. You got at least one of the acoustic guitar cunts in your town, right? That
Yeah.
goes to every pub and gigs, and they're getting what, 300, 400 a night? You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Where it's like, you ask a hip hop artist to fucking go into like a small venue, on a card, a small hip hop artist, and you won't even squeeze out like 100, 150 quid for him sometimes,
Yeah.
right? It's like, um, where it's like, and that's the problem. It's like there needs to be proper funding, and in the music scene, and there needs to be more respect given to the artists, right?
Definitely.
um and like obviously, from a venue owner's perspective, it's like, why would I put money into you if you're not going to make it back, like if you're not selling tickets? But it's like you're not only paying for the people they bring with them, you're paying for like the actual performance as well. You're paying for like the people that are already going to be there to be entertained by like this person, right? So it's like, there just seems to be this weird stigma around it, you know what I mean? Like if a
And
venue owner asks,
it's
huh?
strange because like ironically they're literally pushing the most popular genre of music out the door, you know? Like we can say
Exactly.
say what you want, hip hop is the most universally popular genre of music across the board. Like 99% of people at least our age or between say the ages of fucking 12 and 40 listen to rap,
Hmm.
you know?
Exactly. And
And
it preceded rock and roll. Like it went past rock and roll like there a few years ago.
yeah.
Like rock and roll was the most popular genre, rap is now. It is.
So it's
And
very
like,
strange. I guess again it's the stigma. It's like, they think the word hip hop and they think Irish lads hip hop. Oh geez, like that's gonna be like the worst type of Irish lad. They're probably gonna come in here and just start kicking the head off people. It's like honestly, like I've been to fucking God knows how many hip hop gigs, Irish hip hop gigs, like, and um, I don't think I can count on one hand any time I've seen trouble. And if there was trouble, it wasn't even someone that was at the fucking hip hop gig. Um, and
exactly.
when it comes to being in clubs or, say more that what's the word, like gentrified pubs, where the normies go to stuff like that, fucking they're animals, you know what I mean? Like they're kicking the heads off each other outside after a few lines of coke because some guy insulted the other guy's fucking t-shirt or some shit. And it's like that's acceptable. But yet I'm still being warned going in the door to some places like, oh, we don't want any trouble from ye. And it's like,
Well, I've
ask
been to,
around the last
yeah.
seven venues in the area I've done. There's been no trouble. Do you know what I mean? Like, fuck off, like.
I mean, I've been to like a good amount of like techno raves and shit, like underground raves where like ran by like sketch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I've been to some techno raves. There have been more people that have like gotten injured, fights happening, that have died in the high profile techno raves and shit like that, than there have in the fucking Irish hip hop scene.
Yeah,
I mean, like, obviously it's a lot of a bigger scene, you
of
know,
course.
because like, techno and just like house music and electronic music is just popping here like that, you know but there have been phenomenally more incidents in that shit, and that's welcomed with open arms. You know what I mean? Because it makes the most money. But it's like, you fucking, hip hop gigs are always given this stigma, like, oh yeah, fights are gonna happen, like people are gonna get stabbed. That's not true. You know, it's not true. It's like we came here to do what everybody else came here to do, and that's to listen and to play music and to be entertained and to entertain. That's literally it. And then we'll hopefully make everybody some money in the process. That's literally what it is, you know. But it's these outlads who fucking run these pubs that like have no idea what hip hop is and are just scared by it because, ooh, it's urban. Like, shut up.
Yeah.
Like,
They're literally denying, like they're not willing to give the space for it to develop into a fucking paycheck for them because arguably or ultimately that's their main goal. And I understand that fully. Like I'm not fucking, the cost of running of places like that's fucking, enormous, I imagine, but like they're not willing to kind of give the space and time where it's like, oh, it's not just it's not a big deal. It's a hip hop gig in the area, because usually it's like, okay, Versatile is coming to Galway, Kneecaps coming to Dublin or whatever. And it's like, it's a big thing. And yeah, of course, it's going to be a fucking huge concert or whatever. But for smaller artists, like, give the space and the welcoming arms, for a fucking 6 months to a year. And I can guarantee it will be booming,
exactly.
because realistically, like, I run hip hop gigs and I probably know like all the lads in the whole country that run hip hop gigs. You know what I mean? That's how small it is in terms of people who are actually putting the gigs on and setting stuff up like
Yeah,
independently. Like
super tight
there's
knit.
fuck all. And it's not because people don't give a shite or don't want to. It's because only some of us are built to deal with the amount of shite you have to go through just to fucking put it together. Because can be an enormous hassle in
Oh,
some
for sure.
cases.
And from a venue owner's perspective, like I have to like, like while I've been shitting on some venue owners, like for the stigma they might place on like artists, like I gotta, for those event runners who are actually putting these on, that are dealing with the venue owners and like doing all of the bullshit and dealing with the artists and like all of the complications, the dropouts, like Stage Fright 3 just happened there, right? I'm good friends with SBE. And he's like, he put together a very successful event, and in the lead up to that, I was there behind the scenes a little bit, just, while all of that was going on. And the amount of bullshit that guy had to deal with for months on end leading up to that event, like damn near losing the whole card of battlers and performances on the last week,
Yeah.
like he managed to like get his shit into gear, and his team managed to get their shit into gear and like just make things happen, regardless of like whatever, cancellations or whatever last minute bullshit ended up going down, and made for a pretty successful event in the Sound House. So that's like a prominent Dublin venue that hosted a hip hop gig.
I know,
like,
yeah.
at this year, I mean, well, I know, I'm just saying for like in general, like for Irish hip hop, it's like, wow, you got like a prominent Irish venue hosting a hip hop gig now. So shout outs to Rappers Comp Ireland for like hosting that shit, because that's good for the look of the scene, getting in that venue and killing it. So I feel like more of that with the scene, where we're getting into like really prominent, like soon the Button Factory, like obviously you got to sell it, but it's like, having a proper all hip hop gig in the Button Factory would be insane. It hasn't happened in a long time, unless it's a top selling artist like Cello. And shout out to Cello, like he is on a tear with shows and music and everything that he's doing. He's an industry artist who can rap and also is killing it right now. And I feel like people need to fucking support him. People need to support every one of these artists that are killing shit and doing bits and bobs, because it's about community. It's about bringing each other up. And Ireland is a small island. It is, compared, like you could fit 30 of these in like the state of Texas alone. It's a tight-knit community. There's no reason why we shouldn't all be fucking knowing everybody and supporting each other and bringing each other up.
That's the biggest issue, I think, across the board, is just the fucking people just kind of not wanting to link up. Like in Galway, like there's not a whole lot of hip hop heads or whatever, but like the ones I have tried to mix with, bar a few, like it's just kind of like complete, like the door shut. It's like, man, if me and you put our heads together and put on a gig, like it'd be fucking sick. Like, between the artists we could put together and both of their fan bases mixed together and all of our different contacts for whatever the fuck would be sick. And it's just like, nah, no interest. And it's like, as well, like overhearing people say like, oh, there's no hip-hop scene in Galway at all. I'm kind of like, I have like a gig on like every week or two. Like surely, like it's plastered everywhere. Surely you're like, anyone who at least tunes into Irish hip hop is aware of it. And I think most of the time it's just a case of like, well, I didn't organize the gig and it wasn't in the venue I like to do it in, so it's fucking fuck that shit. Like, and it's kind of like,
I'd love to fucking bop on for a set with you sometime in Galway. I haven't been out there in a little bit. Like,
I like at the moment, in terms of Galway hip hop gigs, I don't really have anything planned, because we with the Bad Arts lads, we're kind of one or two of the last, like say two out of four of the last gigs we did just didn't go so well, and we were kind of like, we should like try and come up with something new, or at least go to different venues and go around the place and stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, we might leave Galway off for a while. So while we're kind of setting up this Irish tour, I was like, Galway could be like a climax thing at the end of this tour, if it builds up to being if we get enough venues basically for a tour. And then we can do, because we're kind of thinking of doing like, okay, small different pockets of the label that kind of sound cohesive go together. We get a headliner from that local area that's kind of cohesive with their sound, and then go around the place and try and knock off as many places as we can, and then come back and have all of us with our different sounds do a kind of climatic gig in Galway. So
I may
when that's
suggest
going to be, I
Limerick,
don't
bro.
fucking know. Huh?
I may suggest Limerick. Limerick is a wonderful place to
Oh,
gig. I like
we've done Pharmacia loads of times.
that's where exactly where. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
is it
exactly
one?
where.
It was just the last one didn't go so well, and it was kind of like, yeah, people might be just kind of sick of us, and we're not. We're kind of just doing the same songs. So it's like, let's come back in a few months with new music and maybe some new ideas and some just new approaches, and just do different venues around the place and stuff. Um,
Sure.
so and as well, I'm away for February, so I'm kind of leaving everything off till after March. So I kind of want to set up a few gigs around the place first. So when the next Bad Arts gig is going to be, I don't know. But then again, there's the I'm assuming the Air Imol Festival in Galway, which me and the Bad Arts lads did a full day of last year. I got to manage my own day for that. We'll be back on as well, and possibly have even there were like 17 dates in total. So possibly could get you down for something there. But also I do run kind of hip hop gigs where just if someone even just contacts me and says, "Hey, I want to do a gig in Galway. Can you sort me out with like a venue for like 2 hours or something like that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And I can get some of the local guys to hop up. I've done that a few times. So if it was ever a case that I didn't necessarily have anything going, you
Hmm.
could just give me a shout and be like, "Hey, can you fucking possibly get me a night in somewhere decent and get a few people to support?" I'll happily help out with that.
Yeah,
Um,
that'd be dope, man. It would be lovely to work with you, man. I know you're like pretty interconnected with the scene, and like I'm surprised that we haven't like crossed paths before. I mean, I know I've seen you in comments and shit. I just
yeah.
never clicked two and two together. So it's been lovely like talking to you and like powwowing about the Irish scene and everything because
Mm.
like there is just so much undiscovered talent that needs to like really get out there and break out of their shell and beat the stigma and beat the bullshit. Beat the bullshit. Put it on a shirt. There you go. But
I have a spot in Galway that's like pretty perfect for someone who literally just wants to jump up and do a set. And there will be a crowd usually there no matter what. Um,
damn.
and if we're lucky enough, usually 9 times out of 10 we'll be offered pay by the venue to get up there and perform, and it's usually a decent pay as well. So and
Okay.
if you ever have any ideas, just give me a shout because I know Ty the poet is always mad for doing gigs, and he's literally down the road from me or whatever. So
Of course. Shout out TY, by the way.
January before I go away because I'm going away to Canada in February for a while. So I kind of don't want to have anything too kind of close to the me going and me coming back.
Yeah,
But
that's fair.
I have some gigs lined up for January that aren't hip hop, just some bands and shit like that. But yeah, look, definitely could come up with something. What I'll do is I'll give the guy a shout, and I actually did already ask him, but he didn't get back to me. But I'll see him someday soon. I'll be like, do you have any fucking Wednesdays or Thursdays or something like that in January we could do, and we could figure it out from there.
Yeah, fair enough. Like that'd be pretty fun. That sounds like a pretty fun shindig. I'd love to hop up, do a set sometime. We'll work it out. We'll work it out.
Yeah, it's
I'm
more
excited
kind
for
of
that.
like it'd be more the kind of setup we'd have there is more like just a kind of guy gets up on stage and plays guitar while people are in there having drinks and stuff like that. But obviously if you're rapping, people are going to pay more attention, so it's kind of there's less pressure on us because we're not selling tickets and we're not kind of like having all this mad organized. We can just kind of get up there and do a
And
few
have
sets,
fun.
have the
Yeah.
crack and have fun basically, and get a few fucking drinks and a bit of money at the end. Is you can't go wrong with that. Even that's a fucking privilege in the hip hop scene because again we were talking about like people not getting paid for gigs and stuff like that. It's pretty fucking common, and a lot of people are just willing to accept it. Like in some cases, like I've had people say to me like, "Oh, I don't give a shit about being paid after this gig. Like it's all good." And I'm like, "Well, do you know how much we're being paid?" It's like, no. It's like, well, this is how much we're being paid. It's like, oh, it's like, yeah. I mean, like, if you want to give it all to me, I have no issue with that, of course. But
See, that's another thing. That's another thing. Like like on the other side of like venue owners like not wanting to pay artists and shit, or like you know, n- like promoters not wanting to pay artists or whatever the fuck. Like there are artists who like are content on that and
yeah,
like will do this like moral high ground thing where it's like, oh, I'll gig. Well, I don't care about the money. I'll just do it for the music. I'm like, oh, I see what you're trying to do, buddy. Listen, I'm about the music. Don't even stress, right? That was never in the question. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this, right? Like, I love music. It's what I do, but it's like what you know a lot of people want to like live off of as well, and like shows are a way of doing that. So it's like
yeah,
you know, there's always that little moral high ground other artists will put on you, and it's like you're just putting us down and like giving us less opportunity by being content with that. Like again, it goes both ways. Like there has to be some element of like benefit in return for that, whether that's
Yeah.
just the entertainment value alone or whether that's ticket sales. I get that. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm not naive to that point, but it's like, to get absolutely nothing and just be grateful for the opportunity. I mean, like, it,
And in
it,
almost
it,
almost every case where someone has said to me they don't care about the money, and then once it comes down to the money, they're like, "Oh, actually, could I get some of that?" I'm like, it's already fucking divided out and calculated for. You said you didn't care, and now you do. Or in cases where it's like, "Oh man, I'm all good with money. You don't have to worry about me. Worry about paying the lads." Like, sure. And then it's like, it
yeah,
could be like, "Oh, actually, no, I kind of changed my mind." It's like it's a tenner. Like, you,
fucking
we
hell.
can
You
talk
know what
about
I
tenure.
mean?
It's like when initially you said you didn't care. It's kind of like, just be honest. It's okay to want the money. Do you know what I mean? It's okay not to turn it down. If you're being offered, take that fucking money. It's a blessing. But of course, yeah, for people who may have that kind of attitude, fair enough. But like, it can be very frustrating when it's like, I don't give a shit about the money, and then they see how much you're actually getting. It's like, well, I did tell you, or I
Yeah,
kind of had a
exactly. You
scope
know
of
what I
how much
mean?
we
We
can
warned
make.
you. We gave you the option, and it's like, people who wish-wash like that, and it's like, some people just do it to be on like a moral high ground about it.
Yeah,
Like, oh, it's all about and of course, it's all about the music for everybody. That's the thing. Like, everyone loves what they fucking do, and like everybody loves doing music, everyone loves the craft part of it, everyone loves performing music, and being able to perform to a crowd of people and have people like support you and like dance along and like mosh pit and do all this crazy shit. I wouldn't rather do anything else in my life, to be honest, man. Like, I love it, but it's like, we got to be realistic as well. We got to walk away with that bread, otherwise, what the fuck are we like spending all this time doing it for? Like, we got to, you know we want to live off of it. We want to be able to like have that little bit of extra just to like get that food, just to live, really. And if we
I
can make
can't
this
say
like
I
a proper.
like I love the feeling of, like, buying a meal or getting, a new jacket or whatever, paying for something with like, oh, I made this money off beats. I never thought I'd ever have that opportunity, even if it's something small. It's like, this 50 quid came from a beat that I made in my room 6 months ago, and now I can either save it, of course, or I can spend it on something. I don't think there's any harm in kind of being proud of yourself for getting into that situation. So if you're good enough where people are going to offer you the money, you may as well take it. Like, you don't have to be a fucking, money hungry fucking slug who just wants to leech up every penny you possibly can. But don't deny the opportunity either. Like, because some people may deserve it and want it and will just never get that opportunity, or never get the chance, or not be respected enough to receive the opportunity you're getting. Do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And there's also the element of like remembering where you're coming from as well. You see those Instagram reels where it's just like, oh, I wish I made more money on my music. Wait, we're making money off music? Like, and it's like the little flashback thing of like you from like years ago.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of them. You got to remember where you're coming from as well. Like, to be able to even make music to the ability that I can now is like, would blow 12-year-old me out of the fucking water and would make him go super excited about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's a privilege to be able to have the ability to put something together in a musical way to this level, and to be able to perform that to a group of people, and to be able to you know have it resonate with those people that listen to it, whether live or whether on YouTube or Spotify or whatever the fuck. Like, that's a privilege in and of itself. And I feel like those who want to get paid shouldn't feel like they're sacrificing their gratefulness to the fans for wanting to like eat off of it, because every big artist has merch, every big artist gets streaming revenue, every big artist gets paid for their shows. Obviously not to the same level as you would, because you're a smaller artist, but it's
Yeah.
like, you know like a smaller artist should be getting that check too, and there should be no stigma on it. Like, when do you deserve a paycheck, really? It's like, how long is a piece of fucking string? you know
Yeah, I would say, like, obviously I'm not quick to blow a fuse, but I do find it annoying at this stage when people still ask me for free shit, because it's like,
hmm
I offered you that stuff, when I was, building, and I was at a level where I could, release merch and, sell it, or CDs or beats or whatever, and I often gave them out for free. And in some cases, people literally said no when I offered them free merch. And then now it's like every fucking time I meet them, it's like, oh, how can I get a hoodie? And I was like, I'll tell you again. Here's the link to the fucking store. There you can buy it. And it's like, asking me 3 times or fucking commenting with fire emojis is never going to get you a free jumper or a free hoodie. It's like, do you know what I'm saying? It's like they're trying to like beat around the bush because they just don't want to fucking pay for it. And it's like, I paid to have this designed, in some cases, like this stuff costs a lot of money. And it's just really annoying when, it's
Yeah,
like I've worked too hard to kind of still be asked that sort of crap. Like, it's like I don't really get asked anymore about like, yo, will you produce my fucking whole album for fucking nothing? And it'll be
yeah,
the
exactly.
greatest thing
Like you
ever.
wouldn't walk into a shop and you wouldn't ask for fucking
Exactly.
can of Coke for absolutely free. Don't walk into my studio and ask for free mixing. You know what I'm saying?
Pretty
Like,
much, and I explain exactly what they're getting and how much they're paying for it. And then I'll always, be generous in terms of like, okay, yeah, if you're going to get fucking 5 mixes done, I'm not going to charge you for all of them. I'll break it down. And then still in some cases, people are just like not happy. And it's like,
exactly. I'll be cutting deals with motherfuckers and they'd be trying to like penny pinch. Penny
oh yeah,
pinch? That's not a word. But
I know what you
like
mean
penny
though.
like literally I would do like 40 quid a fucking like it's super easy, like 20 quid an hour, like physically into the studio, right? You know what I'm saying? But then it's like, if you want to send me stems, then I'll just do it for a flat fee of 40 per song. Then it's
Yeah,
like, that's reasonable. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Whereas like, like people try to penny pinch that, and it's like, bro, like if you can't do it yourself, then invest into your craft.
exactly.
If you really care about it that much, if you really want the best result for it, pay the artists and pay the engineers and pay, all the producers, and just, do what you need to do to get it to sound good. Like this is coming from me, who wanted to find every free way to do things myself, right? Like
Yeah,
it's rich, right? But like I figured it out. I didn't have the luxury to be able to pay producers and pay artists and pay like, other people at the time. So I
of
was
course.
like, trying to figure it out myself, but I did. And if you want to figure it out yourself, by
That's what
all
you do.
means, you know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? Otherwise, like, don't try to petty pitch with me. It's like, and don't try to penny pitch with any other, artists or engineer, people that are trying to grow their business, that are trying to live off of this. It's a community, and you're not being supportive in that way. And it's like, if you're only being supportive just to get something out of them, then that's not support. So it's like,
Well,
is what it
one thing I certainly I would say I despise is like, you give your whatever your price for a beat or mixing or mastering or whatever, and then like they decide like, nah, fuck that, I'm gonna do it myself, and they do it themselves. And it's like, yeah, compare what you paid me to do with what you just released. You just purposely released something shit because you just couldn't deal with you couldn't be bothered to learn it yourself, or you couldn't be bothered to pay someone to do it. And it's
is.
like, I
Or if you're gonna do it yourself, expect to be shit at first, and then you'll just
yeah,
get better. You know, like, and I hope they do get better, right? Like if you were in a position like as an artist that you cannot pay your producer, you can't pay for beats, you can't do shit, right? Like, and you got to do it all yourself from scratch. I wish the best for you. I
yeah.
want the best for you because I am one of those people, right? Like, and it's like, like you're gonna get better, but expect to be shit. That's
They
all I'm saying.
realize then it's not nearly as easy as they thought, because again, when they're looking over your shoulder and you're like so used to what you're doing, it seems like this is piss easy. I could figure this out. It's like, all right, go do it then. And it's like, could you invest in all this gear too? That's probably going into the thousands of euros at this stage. It's like, no. So it's like, in the end, technically, you're just renting thousands of euros worth of gear that I worked very hard to buy and put together for like, 20 quid an hour. And it's like, if
Exactly.
you come in and
Practically
waste your
fucking
time, I
nothing.
have to pay more. Like, realistically, like, say, like, when I'm recording one of my own tracks, like, I act like it's nearly I'm going into someone else's studio and paying them. It's like, I have the track written, I have the track learned off, the track exactly how I want to do it in my head. I get up, I record the track, I record numerous takes, I'm done, I mix it, and then basically I'm pretty much finished. If you're gonna come in and like, there, I wouldn't go into a studio when to kind of, to do a test run or do multiple test runs. It's kind
Hmm.
of like, just because you're doing a test run doesn't make it free. If you
Exactly.
don't want to pay as much, come in when you have that fucking song ready
like
and
if I
go.
like if I'm feeling generous, right? If I'm feeling generous, Like depending on who it is and depending on the situation, I wouldn't be able to like recite immediately. I might give like a free mix, like a demo free mix situationally, depending. Like if that person did a favor for me,
Yeah,
right?
of
Like,
course.
because that's how you know what I mean. Of course, I'm gonna be lenient. I'll do a favor for the homie, right? But it's like then you fall into the trap sometimes where it's like if you do it for one and you're not doing it for them all, the integrity of your business, and it's like, but then again, it's your business,
Yeah,
right? Like, if someone is trading one favor for another, that's fair enough. That's not all they're going to be all the time, but there is leniency there. But for the most part, it's like, yeah, no, you're walking into my shop, I ain't giving you my can of Coke for free. You're paying for a service. Like even if they are your close friends, and they'll try to pin that on you. They're like, oh, we're friends.
yeah.
We're super close, and it's just like, really, you're gonna try
Yeah,
and
I'm not
pull on
gonna
my
get you to fucking
heartstrings?
pave my fucking paved tarmac in my front garden for free because you're my friend. Like, I mean, maybe you can give me a discount. Likewise, I do the same. I do.
Yeah,
You can ask anyone, any of the artists that I'm close friends with. Like, I've always told them, like, all right, I'll give you a discount because I know you. What I mean, I'm not gonna
exactly.
fucking charge you full price. We drink pints together every fucking couple of weeks. So that's fair enough.
Exactly,
Like,
like, and that's the thing. Like they'll try to that's taking advantage of a friendship. Like that's because it's just like, okay, this is the thing that you're, working really hard to like live off of. This is the thing that you're working really hard to be successful at, and people are trying to like, take advantage of the fact that you're friends with them just to like get like it cheaper and stuff. Like what does that say about your character? You
yeah,
know, it's like, um, and I've had people do this, and I've explained this to them this way, like where it's like, bro, you can't be tugging on my heartstrings. I'm trying to like do something here, and they'll look at you conceited for it. They'll look at you all conceited for it. They'll think you're like the most selfish fucking person in the world, you know. And you're not. You're not. You're just trying to do you, and you're just trying to divvy out things fairly. And my mixes, right? This is not to toot my own fucking horn, but my mixes are fucking fire. Okay, listen, buddy.
Well, if you
When
don't
you're
have that
like,
attitude towards your stuff, you're in the wrong games. You have to
for
kind of
sure, but like the
do this
point
well.
being, my shit's fire, right? And I can give you like a quality radio ready standard product for like the fucking under 50 quid, you know, under 50 quid. I can do that for under 50 quid, and then people still try to penny pinch. It's
Yeah,
like, do you like, people don't understand people will undervalue it because of who's doing it, right? But if you are like just me in a fucking home studio with like really good ears and can make something phenomenal with minimal equipment, people will undervalue it because it's not a giant fucking mixing console, even though like half the time those mixing consoles are just there for show, and like 90% of what they do is digital anyway, you know like you could it's like they'll undervalue it because of like who's doing it and the resources. But if you're getting like a high quality product anyway, it's like, what's the difference? If I'm
yeah,
making your song sound fucking great, like 10 times better than when you had it on the demo version that you recorded on your phone, you know, it's like, what's your, what's the complaint, you know? So it's like people will try to get as much as they can out of you. And I used to be a little bit of a pushover with that, because I used to feel guilty. I used to feel this stigma. I used to feel like, maybe I'm asking too much for asking for money. And no, don't let anybody tell you that shit as an artist or as a producer. If you're good at what you do, and if the quality of your product justifies the price that you're setting, then good, do it. Put that as your price, because we got to eat, and it's as simple as that. And I encourage all upcoming producers, all upcoming rappers, with studios that are also producers or whoever the situation may be, to kind of have that same thing and just watch out, you know, and watch who's the closest to you in the music circle as well. Like, one or two free sessions here for a guy, for a favor, dependent situation dependent is fine. But if they're trying to milk free session after free session after free session out of you all the fucking time, that's something that's there.
all right, man. Look, thanks very much for coming on the show. Really appreciate you having on, and I wish you the best of luck with everything you're working on, especially your battles too. I hope you fucking do a Florida Chainsaw Massacre job on all the bastards out there, whoever you're battling. And
Thank you, man.
yeah, I'll definitely have you back on at some stage. I have a good few more guests to get through. For anyone who's been tuning into the last couple of episodes, I have a few more lined up before the end of the year. So hopefully all of those come through. So if you have anything you want to plug before you close up the episode, now is the
Of
time to
course,
do it.
man. Please do check out my album Aquarium. It is on all streaming platforms. Please subscribe to DJ Green. Please subscribe to me, The Real Red Wolf. Please subscribe to Premier Battles and watch my new battle that just came out, Red Wolf versus Raptor. Absolutely insane 10-minute one-rounder clash. Lyricist Titan versus Lyricist Titan. Gotta love that shit. But other than that, man, thank you for having me on. It's been such a vibe, and love the vibe of all the other episodes. And props to what you do, Connor. Seriously.
No problem, man. Sweet. I'll let you enjoy your dinner.
Of course, man. Take it easy.
All
Yeah.
right. Cheers, man. Talk to you soon.
Cheers.